Talmor, Shishin Morachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming. And death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Alison Larkin, writer, comedian, narrator, and host of the Jane Austen podcast. Join me as we embark on a journey through Austen's timeless stories, starting with Pride and Prejudice. The Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Did you have any sort of like chemistry reads or anything?
No. And it was funny because I did 2 scenes. I never got a call back or anything like that. And then when I finally met with Tim, he's like, yeah, I loved your audition. He goes, I've always been afraid of cops and you made me scared. you just kind of hit it. And I go, oh, did you know me from blah, blah, blah? He goes, no, I don't think I've ever seen you before.
Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Coming In. I'm your host, Jillian Clare. If this is your first time tuning in, this is the show where I speak to fellow actors about their journey in the industry, and I make them share a couple bad audition stories with me. If you're not subscribed to the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and follow us on social media. Those links are in the show notes. We've also created a YouTube and a Discord for our community, so check those out. Today on the show is someone really special. I first met him 20 years ago, and we talk about this a little bit in the episode. And we did this AFI short film called Chasing Daylight. It was me, Jason Dolly, and our guest today. And if you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I posted a clip from it. Essentially, my character gets her head chopped off in the same way that they do in Hereditary, and then I come back as a ghost later. Jamie, our guest, plays Jason's father in the movie. It was a fun little short film that we did so many years ago. It's pretty wild. I was 10. I think Jason was 11. So yeah, it was crazy. But those clips are over on my Instagram if you want to see them. It's actually pretty disturbing. So I'm sorry in advance. Anyway, today on the show is Jamie McShane. You know him from Argo or Lincoln Lawyer, The Fosters, Bloodline, Southland, Scorpion, Sons of Anarchy, literally 1,000 different things. But right now, you know him best as Sheriff Galpin from the hit Netflix show Wednesday. And it was so bizarre talking to Jamie because we haven't seen each other or spoken in literally 2 decades, and so it was such a blast from the past to talk to him. So anywho, I could go on and on. It was freaking awesome reconnecting. Here's my interview with Jamie McShane. And welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I haven't seen you since you were like 9.
I know. It's so absolutely wild to me how long it's been since we've seen each other. For the listeners, Jamie and I did an AFI short film about 18, 19, 20 years ago, somewhere around there. I think I was 10. I'm 30 now, so probably 20. And I recently rewatched it because I was going through all of my old VHSs to convert them. And I realized that we never even had any scenes together.
No, you were on a bus, right?
Yeah, I was on a bus and then in the airplanes at the airplane graveyard.
Yeah. With Jason Dolly.
Yeah. So crazy. I mean, so crazy that was so many years ago too. I feel like it was just yesterday. I know. As you get older, the yesterday feels even closer. So Well, I was sitting there watching Wednesday and I was like, holy shit, that's Jamie. And I was like, what the heck? We need to talk about everything. But before we get into all of the newer stuff and all of the amazing things that have been happening in your life, my first question is always, what made you want to be an actor?
I saw the movie Robin Hood when I was little. It was an animated Disney version in the theater, and I just connected with that and knew that's what I wanted to do. I understood. I was like 4, 5. I understood he was animated, but it just kind of clicked with me. And then as I got older, I started watching, when I was a kid, they just had reruns of like the Addams Family, I Dream of Jeannie, shows like that. And I was like, oh, I want to do that, but I don't want to be the lead guy. I want to be the second guy. They're a little more interesting. And then as I got older, I learned, a little more about movies. I saw Gene Hackman, Clint Eastwood, Spencer Tracy. And then MASH, when I was a kid, MASH was on.
Yeah.
And Alan Alda was he was just so good. And I was like, oh, that's the style I'd like to, do if I ever got into this, into it.
Wow.
So that's how I got in. I mean, that's how I wanted to get in, why I wanted to get in.
And then how did you get in? What was that like for you?
Well, I gave up on it all. I just thought, as a kid, everyone wanted to be an actor or a rock star or something, or a pro athlete. And then I saved up after college, and I was backpacking around the world, and I was in Australia, and some guy was like, hey, mate, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be an actor. And he's like, well, why don't you do it? And I lived in Jersey outside of New York, so I started going to New York, basically. I didn't know what a headshot was or anything. And and then slowly, I got my SAG card pretty early, and I did a lot of plays, like play after play. I mean, some in Jersey, some in New York. And then I did a lot of extra work and stand-in work and all that, and, tried to move up the ladder, and eventually moved to LA, and hi, doggy. And LA opened up for me. Slowly.
Slowly. I mean, I'd love to know, because obviously when I met you, I was so young. And that's why I love having the show and being able to talk to people that I worked with as a kid. It's always so interesting to me. I want to know where you were in your journey when we met.
Interesting. So I looked it up, and it was 2004 when the movie came out. So maybe we shot around 2003 or so. I started acting in January of 1990. I was in New York. I was there for about 8-9 years. And it took me about 12 years to get an agent who really understood me. And that was Kim Dorr from Defining Artists. We're still very close. And I was at a point where I had Kim at this point for a year or two, and I was really booking a lot of co-stars and then some guest stars, which are the bigger roles. And I was doing a lot of, parts on television, not quite at the recurring role, part of my career yet, but getting there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then you, after Chasing Daylight, you did so many arcs on so many different TV shows. It's really,
knock on wood, huh?
I mean, it's really remarkable, the amount of and not just random TV shows, ones that are really well known. I mean, you had 24 and Sons of Anarchy, and I mean, Southland, all of these incredible shows that you worked on. And
yeah,
I mean, it's mind-boggling to me to be a part of that many incredible shows and have these wonderful arcs on them.
Yeah, to me too. So someone asked me recently, really recently, they're like, man, you're on such good shows. Do you pick and choose and da da da? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I take whatever I can get still. I mean, I'm getting more opportunities at this point. But I think I've had very good representation, and they've been smart with me. And then, fortunately, shows like Bloodline, Sons of Anarchy, Southland, I just wound up booking them, luckily. And you're like, oh, you're a part of that. So, yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you wanted to always be the person who wasn't necessarily the lead, but the one who was the interesting sideline character that was always there. And it feels like you've actually really fallen into that prototype.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to do. I did a lead in a film a couple of years ago called Busman's Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little independent film. A friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, Austin Smithard, he wrote, directed, produced. He was the DP. He was the sound. He was everything. And we had a crew of 2 other people, and we went around the world literally in a month. We went Ireland, Norway, Italy, Mumbai, Zanzibar, and then Sydney, Australia.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I was the lead in that. I was Michael Busman, Busman's Holiday. It's on Amazon, I think. So, I mean, I would like to do leads. I'd love to have a career like, Gene Hackman or Robert Duvall or Ed Harris or something. But for some reason, I was drawn, because most of those shows I watched in when I was a kid were in reruns. They were comedies, which I rarely get to do. But the sidekick characters to me were more interesting and more I don't know, approachable, or I don't really know how to explain it.
It's always felt to me like side characters, not necessarily that they aren't as important, but they feel more fully formed. And I think it might be the actor just saying like, here's my shot and I'm going to put everything into it.
Interesting.
That's kind of how I've looked at it. It's like, cause it's interesting too, when you watch something and you know that like the side characters aren't as good and you're thinking, well, were there other people that were better, but then they would have taken the spotlight away from the lead and that's why they didn't hire them.
Interesting.
I don't know. There's always a theory in my mind about these things.
I will say though, like, Alan Alda was the lead in MASH, but he was such an ensemble player. And to me, he was just a standout in such a subtle way. So I was very drawn to that,
What was the moment when you were, younger and out here in LA when you thought like, dang, I'm on the right track? Do you remember like what that role was for you that you said, okay, I know that I can continue putting all of my energy into this?
I think the first, I've been persistent. I mean, it was a long road. 12 years to get an agent. I think my gift has been to not give up, even at times when I wanted to. But I think when I got my first episode of NYPD Blue back in, I don't know, a little before we did that film, maybe 2 years before we did it. And I got that from a casting workshop.
Wow. And
the casting director, Scott Jenkinger, saw something in me and called me in. And that was a big role for me. At the time. And that was like, oh, wow, I'm working with, it was a hit show. I'm working with all the leads and everyone was so nice. And I had a nice part, and I felt confident about what I was bringing to the table. So that was good.
And you've done a lot of film too. You did Argo and a bunch of other things, but you've worked with David Fincher twice now. And that's
I don't know if he meant that. I think he forgot after the first time.
No way.
Yeah, I loved it. He's an incredible director and he's a funny guy.
Yeah, I have to know how it was filming Mank. That was such a stylistically intense film, and I'd love to know what it was like on set.
It was amazing. Gary Oldman was so sweet, so nice. The whole cast was, Amanda Seyfried, everyone. They were just very kind. It made it very easy. And, Fincher is known for doing a lot of takes.
Right.
And he's very specific he doesn't change. He rehearses, which is great because a lot of directors don't. He actually brings you in way ahead of time for rehearsals. And he lets you find, stuff in it. And then he sort of locks it in. And then he's looking, I don't know if this is what he actually does, but to me, he kind of locks in your performance. He'll change a little bit here and there. But then he's looking for all these other nuances that it's like he understands every bit of filmmaking from, the lighting, the camera, the lens, the da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's incredible to watch him and how he reacts with other people and the humor in it. And it's like he's got this genius as an artist, but then he has this genius as like an engineer or a scientist or something too.
So he's just a straight up genius is what we're saying.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd love to work for him again. It was great.
It was such an interesting movie to watch. I think, just the style of it was just so interesting, and it made things really
it was neat
enjoyable.
To get to be a part of it.
Yeah. And Gary Oldman, I was just thinking about him the other day. I was like, he is one of those actors where I never know that it's Gary Oldman until somebody tells me it's Gary Oldman, because he truly changes every single time.
Yeah, he does. He's amazing. He's one of those guys that's just an amazing character actor who happens to be a lead actor that can bring incredible characters. Just so diverse.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.
And back to the show. Okay, so we have to talk about Wednesday because obviously, I mean, it's the number 3 show that Netflix has ever done, which is crazy.
I don't know. I know it was number 1 for a bunch of things, but I don't know the whole stuff about it.
So
it's done pretty well.
I was looking it up, and the only other shows that have done this well are Squid Game and Stranger Things. And that's wild. Did you know when you guys were making this that it was going to be such a hit? Like, did you feel it? Because I feel like you can feel it when you're on set.
I think we all felt it was something because Al and Miles, the creators of the show, the scripts were so good. And then it's Tim Burton.
Right.
And that's a whole nother element. And Tim's a sweetheart. And then Jenna was just, she plays Wednesday, and she was just so good. So good, and such a sweet kid, and smart and funny, but it was just like, oh, she's got this down. And then you bring the other kids in, Percy, Joy, Georgie Farmer, they were all doing really, really great work. And then, came in Gwendolyn and Catherine Zeta and Luis Guzman, and it's like, oh, they've got the big guns in here too, and then Hunter was wonderful, who plays my son, and it was just, it's great to be part of the team. And it was interesting for me because it was the first time like I was the senior on the squad, Normally there's more people my age or a bit older, and this was like, oh, I'm the I don't know, the chief in here.
You're the father figure of the show. And you did have a lot of scenes with the kids, and it was interesting with Hunter and with Jenna. I felt
with Jenna too.
It was interesting to watch. Not many times do they have like a lead character actually working with the sheriff. A lot of the times, it's like you have that character working in their own way or going against law enforcement. But it was interesting to see.
Well, she did.
Well, yes, she did. But it was interesting to see her like try and say, hey, I can help you because I know more. And having you guys have those interactions throughout the series, it was really cool. And
it was really cool for me to get to film that and get to work with her and Hunter and, bits I had with Gwendolyn. It was fantastic.
And how was Tim? You said he was a sweetheart.
Oh, he's awesome. He's funny. He's really funny. He's very simple as a director to the actors from what I saw. Like, he didn't give a lot of direction. He kind of lets you do your thing, and he'll tweak you a bit. But his vision is, I guess, so specific in what he does with the rest of the crew. And we don't come in until he's got it all set up. But one day, one of the ADs was talking to me, and he said, I don't get it. He goes, I was looking at the monitor, and it looked really good. Like, it was a really good shot and scene. And he goes, and then Tim went and talked to the crew for like 2 seconds. And then I look at the monitor again. He goes, it jumps up several levels. It was like amazing. He goes, then he talks to them again. They do take 3. And then all of a sudden, you're in a Tim Burton movie. He goes, I don't know what changed, but it just was like that. So whatever that was in those 2 clicks of Tim saying something, I guess that's Tim's magic.
Yeah, I mean, he really does have a magic about him. You always know you're watching a Tim Burton film or show when it's on because he has such a specific way of creating. It's so cool. And it must have been really cool to see that world, like, come to life and in real life.
Yeah, the sets were amazing. I don't know. Tim's such an amazing artist, and it looked like it all came out of his head. I don't know who was responsible for what. Set designers, Alan Miles, what they had, but each set was just like you walk in and you're like, oh, I'm on a Tim Burton thing, and it was pretty amazing.
What was your audition process like for Wednesday?
I sent a tape in. My buddy Sean Hattasey, who's a very well-known actor, is further up the food chain than I. He's was helping me do auditions, and he's a director too, so it was great. And he just said, hey, if you need help, or whatever. So I just put it on tape with Sean, and there wasn't much to it. Like at the time I had a lot of auditions, and some were really, heavy roles or whatever. And this one was like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just kind of being me, but a little grumpier. Sean's like, yeah. And that was it. And I sent in the tape like in late February, a couple of years ago, I guess. And I didn't book the role till the end of July.
Whoa.
Yeah. So during that time, it was like, I was up for all these other things, didn't get them. And then it was like, my manager would say, hey, that Tim Burton thing, you're still in the running for it. And then it got a little closer, like, you're really in the running for this thing. And then it was like, you're the first choice. And then it was like, they're trying to find the right Wednesday and the right place to shoot. And I got it, like late July.
That's wild. Did you have any sort of like chemistry reads or anything?
No. And it was funny because I did 2 scenes. I never got a call back or anything like that. And then when I finally met with Tim, he's like, yeah, I loved your audition. He goes, I've always been afraid of cops, and you made me scared. He goes, you just kind of hit it. And I go, oh, did you know me from blah, blah, blah? He goes, no, I don't think I've ever seen you before. I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
oh my God.
So, I mean, it was pretty cool.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I mean,
yeah,
normally with like a big series, or what you expect is going to be a big series, you go through hundreds of different times of meeting the director and meeting the creators and studio and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think with COVID that may have changed a little, and I think the creators told me later that Tim really didn't consider anyone else. He says he saw your tape and that was it. Boom, which is very flattering.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I have enough background that they can say, all right, well, if he wants him, Netflix has worked with me before, right, and they gave the green light. And, I guess someone from MGM at least knew who I was, so that probably helps. For sure.
I wonder, so that audition in particular, you were like, I'm just going to be me and a little grumpier, which I love. Do you have a specific way of breaking down an audition or a character or anything before you do a tape?
Not really specifically. It varies, but I get the sides, and then I go like, ooh, who is this person to me? Like, what can I bring to it? How do I feel about the character? Rather than looking for, oh, what do they want, And then I kind of go with my gut feeling, and then I, pepper in, all right, how do they walk? How do they talk? What do they wear? And, stuff like that. And some roles come quickly to me, and some take a little more work. And, maybe once in a blue moon, I'm just like, I don't get it, So, and ironically, I think that the Sheriff Galpin one was like, I was trying to figure out, and I was just like, I just think it's me, like a little grumpy. That's it.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I feel like too, the ones that, at least in my experience, roles that I've put less time into where I'm just like, I'm just going to kind of be myself and add a little flair, are the ones that I end up booking.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe a bit about an authenticity thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think about the uniqueness of one just being who you are, because if you try to be someone else, there's someone else. But if you're just you, there's no other you, no matter who you are.
True.
And we derive from other people, and once in a while, like I worked with Ben Mendelsohn years ago on Bloodline, and he is just derivative of no one. Like he's his own entity. It's so refreshing,
And I think too, it's one of those things where it's like the actors that we all love and admire, like the Jeff Goldblums of the world. I mean, they're so unique into their own person.
Yeah.
And I think if more actors realize, hey, just be you, and then put yourself in the circumstance. Obviously, if there's things that need to happen for you to change bits of yourself, then do it. But the most important part is you being there.
Bringing something about you. And that's the magic of like Gary Oldman, where he brings something that's him, but in such a wide variety. Johnny Depp does that. There's a couple other actors who are amazing at that. Robert Downey Jr., I think.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just to mention guys, you know, in my realm. I mean, not my realm, but my age realm.
I think they're in your realm now.
No,
I think
not
you're
quite,
there.
But thank you.
I think you're there. Well, on this show, we like to share audition stories. I know I asked you for the Wednesday one, but are there any additional stories that you would like to share with listeners?
I had a funny one. I was just starting acting, and I got my first headshots done, but I hadn't done anything yet. So I didn't want to lie and be like, oh yeah, I did this film and this play. So I'd done some workshop back in New York, and I just got quotes from people who had seen me, and I just put quotes on the back of my resume. And that was it, like, you know, and that people had seen my work. And then I got called in by the head of ABC casting, like the head. And people in the workshop were like, what? You just started and all this. And I'm like, I don't know. So I went in to meet with the head of ABC casting. And I'm like 23. And I get in there and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And I'm waiting. Finally, someone comes out and they go, Jamie, there's been a mistake. She didn't mean to call you in. She actually pulled your picture as an example of what not to do. And I'm like, you know, I'm totally deflated. But I'm also like, well, okay, I appreciate that. But you called me in. So I'd like to meet her. And they go, you're not going to meet her. I go, no, I'm here. You called me in. I'd like to meet her. And we went back and forth a little. I'm like, well, you know, I'm not leaving here until I meet her. So thank you. So eventually the person came out and she goes, hi, I'm so-and-so. You met me. Leave. And then I went, you know, tail between my legs for quite a while. But I'd like to see her now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a gutsy move for a kid in his early 20s.
Well, from Jersey, so.
I love that. Here, so that you were the example of what not to do. And she was going to use that as an example.
And whatever assistant misread the note.
That assistant probably got fired after you left. Like, you left and then they packed their bags.
That assistant is probably the head of some studio.
So true. Oh, that's good. That's really good. What else have you got going on? What's next for you? Obviously, there's going to be a Wednesday season 2, but what else is happening?
Wednesday season 2 is happening. I got to see how much I'm written in and all that. I'm waiting on that, kind of on pins and needles. I'm working right now in 1923, hence the mustache. Mm-hmm. I play a U.S. Marshal in 1923. That's one of the prequels to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. It's such a joy to get to work on, and it's fun, you know, playing a cowboy.
Yeah.
So I'm literally shooting that now. I've got like one more scene to finish up.
Wow.
And then I've got, I did a film called The Great Divide. I had just a little part. It's an independent film. And then I did a short film. I had the lead for Michael Cudlitz and his wife Rachel. She wrote it, called On Earth as It Is in Heaven. And that should be coming out. And then I just did another short film for a guy named Richard Zelnicker with Billy Gardell. He's the lead in it. And I play a 1980s Vegas pit boss.
Yes.
Yeah, with a cranberry velvet suit and all. And that's called The Vortex. So.
Oh my God, I have to have a picture of that.
Oh, I had like long sideburns, goatee, had to color everything black. I looked hideous.
I love it.
It was fun.
Well, before we go here, I have to use this as an example because I recently had a conversation with one of my friends who's been, working steadily, doing plays and whatnot. And he was like, I don't know that I should go out for short films anymore. I think I'm kind of like done with them. I think I'm over it. And I said, no, nobody's ever done with short films. said short films are great because you get to meet people that you never would have met doing something else, and they are helpful. They keep your craft going. It's fun. It's a little short thing you can commit to and help other artists. And hearing you now talk about still doing short films, I wonder what your perspective is on continuing that.
Do them. I mean, do short films, do student films, you know. Before I did Chasing Daylight, the reason Jeff Stevenson, who did the film and directed it, knew me was I had done an AFI film. I was the lead in it like 2 years before, called Fine. And it wound up being one of the 3 that won the Student Academy Award that year.
Oh, wow.
And that's when agents sort of started looking at me. But, you know, you do short films, you get to meet people, sometimes you get roles you'd never get otherwise, you know. And it's just, you got to work, you know, work begets work, and work, you learn on set, you know, and you learn how to do things maybe differently or different character. And I don't know, I just love working. So if someone offers me a short film and it works out, that's great, you know, and then hopefully you get the big jobs that'll pay you enough to pay the bills in the meantime, you know?
Mm-hmm. And when those people then go on to make the big jobs, they call you back because you helped them when they were making the small jobs.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. No, I really enjoy doing shorts as well. I mean, I enjoy doing anything on camera, really.
I feel you on that. It's like, just send it to me. Whatever. I don't care. I'll do it.
Yep.
Do you ever have aspirations of doing anything behind the camera?
No.
No?
Nope.
None?
Nope.
Producing none of it?
Nope. Not really. I mean, I think if you get to a certain level, like Titus Welliver and Bosch and all, or people like that, where it's their show, like, you know, Titus is Bosch and it's his show, and then you become a producer.
Right.
You know, if that happened, that's great. Fine. But no, I have no aspirations of that. I don't want to direct. I don't see the full story. I'd be horrible. Yeah, I'm good within the moment of the scene. Like I help, you know, direct, or I see things, or I can ward off some stuff just because I've worked enough. But no, you?
Yeah,
you produce, right?
I've produced a few films. I've directed a couple. I like doing it all.
Good for you.
I think acting is my number one. But I like being on set. I like working, and if that means I'm going to direct this month and I'm not going to act this month, that's fine. Let me direct. Yeah,
there's a lot of actors, Sean Hattie included, who he's a great director. Michael Cudlitz as well. You know, even huge actors, Clooney, Robert Redford, and all, that have that gift of both. I don't have it.
I don't know. I bet there's some little thing in you that if you were pressured, Nope. I know what I have and what I don't have, and I know better what I don't have. So, oh my gosh. Well, do you have? I was trying to find you on social media. Do you have any social media? None.
Nope. That social media goes with my directing. None.
I love it.
No, I'm just not interested. I mean, some people years ago put up like a Facebook page for me, somebody from college. I didn't even know I had it. And then, and I felt bad because people were writing in. They're like, "Hey, Jamie, I know you from grammar school." I'm like, "Oh, how do I respond or whatever?" It took like 2 years before I knew I had it. And then for a minute, I had a publicist, and they had a Twitter account for me, but I don't even know how to use it. It hasn't been used in years.
I love that.
Keep it that way.
Stay off the grid, man. It's too crazy on it anyway. Stay off the grid. Right. Well, I've so enjoyed talking to you.
You too. Thanks for asking me. It was an honor.
So cool to catch up with you and see all the great things that you've been doing.
Thank you. You too. I looked you up. You're doing good, kid.
Oh, thanks. Thanks again to Jamie for coming on the show and going down memory lane with me and talking to me about everything we talked about. I so appreciate actors who come on the show who are in it for the long game and the long haul and realize that it's about the journey, not the destination. I know, so cheesy. But I love that. I think it's important in any artistic field to remember that, making it overnight doesn't really matter. It's about longevity and putting in the work and the time And so I love when I have guests on the show that really exemplify that. So thank you again to Jamie. If you haven't watched Wednesday on Netflix, I really don't know what you're doing, but you should go watch that and keep an eye out for season 2. Next week on the show, I have a fantastic actress from Singapore. Her name is Selena Tan. You remember her as Michelle Yeoh's sister in Crazy Rich Asians. She has a new film with J-Lo and Josh Duhamel called Shotgun Wedding coming out January 27th. So tune in next week for my conversation with Selena. And as always, thanks for coming in.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Burntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Burntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.